Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums today with our very first March weekly check-in reading for the week of today, March 1st, all the way through, I'm assuming it'll be March 7th for Saturday. So this week we do have a lunar eclipse in Virgo on Tuesday, March 3rd at, I think, like 3 a.m. or something like that. So it's a great time to really look at the different elements in your life that are ruled by Virgo, whatever house or any kind of planets you may have in Virgo in your natal chart, and see what kind of things are finally ready to be closed out in those areas, and taking some time out to focus on personal healing, maybe even looking at what has been the culmination of the things that you've been focusing on when it comes to the Virgo ruled elements and aspects in your life. So since it is Pisces season, and what a February, right? It has been crazy. I know for me, I feel very just still overwhelmed with the news and everything happening at this current moment. I'm just tired and I'm sleepy, and I just feel like every day there's a barrage of things happening and going on that makes it very hard for you to find a sense of hope or to find the inspiration. So if you are also finding it challenging and difficult at this time to latch onto hope or to find the things that really speak to you, I will say this: joy, hope, inspiration, all of these things are resistance. And I think that those are beautiful Virgo lessons as well, and Pisces lessons, because it's more about breaking free past the things and the limitations that other people may put on us when it comes to how we should be reacting and how we should be showing up. So, all right, let's see what this week has in store for us as a collective. So let's get into what we need to know for this week. So here we have the Six of Swords reversed. What do we need to do as a collective? Here we have the Seven of Pentacles upright. Now, what do we need to release as a collective? We're getting two. So look, we have strength. And then we also have the Four of Pentacles reversed. So we're going to put those like that because those both wanted to come out today. And what do we need to contemplate this week as a collective? We have the Queen of Wands reversed. So let's kind of scooch these little guys over. I'm also going to get a card out of the Moonology Messages deck. Again, we have a, full moon this week. We have Slow Down, Moonstone. And then I want to do an Inner Child Oracle. I kind of feel like sometimes having a little bit of that inner child lesson as well with these moon messages is very nice. So here we have Find Your Haven. All right, friends. So for this week as a collective, what we need to know. Here we have the Six of Swords. Now, to me, the Six of Swords is typically a card of transitions, healing, kind of moving on from whatever we were kind of hanging on to when it comes to the mental, the analytical, the logical. This being reversed, it's kind of telling me that maybe we're still a little bit in this internalized kind of conflict. We are too focused on, are we going to win? Are we going to lose? We're not really paying attention to what it is that we're ready to kind of move on from. This to me can also be a reminder that this is maybe not the best time to kind of get out there and try to do too many things or try to let go of too many things. There's something that maybe we still need to kind of process and kind of work through before we can kind of fully release ourselves. I know as spring quickly approaches and it will, be here this month, many of us may be in the mood to kind of do some spring cleaning, trying to pay attention to a lot of different elements and aspects of our lives. And so I feel like the energy for this week may be very much this we're not quite ready to move into the next thing, or we're not quite ready to kind of allow healing to truly come into play the way that we would like. So there may be something that needs to be addressed, but we're not quite ready to get there, if that makes sense. And I feel like this full moon and these eclipses have really been reminding us of what it is that we need to do and how we're showing up for ourselves in different ways. So while I usually look at the Six of Swords as a very positive movement forward kind of card, I feel like this being reversed this week, we may not feel like we're making as much progress as we need. Now, there may be some lack of momentum. There may be some lack of being able to kind of transition into the next thing. Maybe we're holding back on some things that we know need to shift, but we just are, I don't want to say stuck, but maybe a little hesitant to kind of move on. So there may be just a little bit of this sense of, we know that there's something that we need to kind of establish and shift and move from, but maybe we're just not quite 100% ready right now. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with this energy. It just may be a reminder that we need to look at all of the different sides of what we're kind of carrying at this time. Because we can't do everything, right, all of the time. So next to what we need to know, we have what we need to do this week. So here we have the Seven of Pentacles. Now this is, again, kind of a card of just we're waiting, where we've done the hard work, we've, planted the seeds, we're watching things grow, but things are not quite there yet. Things haven't quite come together the way that we had anticipated, or we're just not seeing a lot of the results just yet. Now, I feel like with the Seven of Pentacles, there can be this sense of just hurry up, but that's not how Pentacles work, right? This is a very slow kind of, it needs to take its time. It's something that really requires a lot of patience in a lot of ways, because it's the culmination of our dedication, our hard work, and what we've done. And we can't really rush nature. We can't really rush things as much as we would like to. Some things really do require the time that it takes for them to grow. And it can be a little bit of a challenge, especially in our instant economy of, we're so used to everything being so quick and so fast, and anything that I want, I can buy it whenever I want, as long as I have the money, right? And I can get it the same day or whatever, these things where I'm that convenience is nice at times, but I also wonder, what does that do to our brains? What does that do to our communities? Where, if something is not easily found or convenient to us in some way, it really just, really, I think, has warped how we view a lot of things in our lives. And so sometimes I think because we have so much information and availability at our fingertips, and we have so many opportunities to just have things be boom, 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 that we don't really look at, what it takes to get to that, or what is required, what resources are required for that to be something that is available to you, as well as what it means whenever something isn't going to be like that. Something isn't going to just be instantly fruitful as soon as you want it, or whenever you're looking for it. And gardening is one of those things where, or even having plants or having animals, children, these are all things that really require you to kind of sit down and look at the super long term. And I feel that's the lesson of the Seven of Pentacles, is that even if you've like hurried up to kind of do everything that was right and set up all the right circumstances, sometimes we just have to kind of wait for the correct timing and for things to just kind of do what they're gonna do. So right now it may feel like things are not really moving quite as quickly as we want. We're just kind of waiting for things. And I think that this is also, you know, on the grand stage at the current moment, because the things that are kind of happening with the US and our world relations, I think a lot of us are kind of in this sense of like, ooh, what's going to happen? I don't know what that means for me. When I think of Pentacles, I think it's not just our material and our physical world. It can be our money. It can be our behaviors. It can be our physical bodies. So there is so many things that I think a lot of us are kind of reconsidering, like, what does this mean for me? Like, what's going to happen to all of the things that I've been focusing on and how I've been focusing on things. So it's a very interesting energy, because I think a lot of us are trying to we're feeling that like Saturn and Neptune and Aries energy of like, I want to get out there and do this. But we still have a lot of things that are in Pisces, right? And we still have some stuff that is kind of moving out of Aquarius. And so we're not, I think with some of like these squares that we've been having, like with Mars square Uranus this last week, we're feeling a lot of this kind of like, oh, I just want to hurry up and kind of get to the next thing. I want to see what's coming. And so there's a tension there. There's a sense of things not really quite shifting as quickly as we want them to. So we may all be feeling it. It's not just you. If you kind of feel like, I need to hurry up and do this. I know like that's one of the things that was kind of, and I have a lot of planets in Taurus too. So I was kind of like feeling like this sense of like, I need to hurry up and I need to get there and I need to do this. And I need to do that. And I was like finishing things a little bit faster than I usually do. And then I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, did I do this? Did I do that? And I'm like, well, yeah, I did do everything. So it's been very strange. I feel like time's been almost like dough, like it's like stretching and then like snapping back and then stretching. And so I think that a lot of us are kind of feeling this like weird energy at the current moment with time and what it means for us. Now, with what we need to release, we got these two cards. We have Strength and also the Four of Pentacles reversed. Strength to me is very much about understanding what it is that we've gone through and giving ourselves an opportunity to recognize and realize what we've gained in that process. It may not always feel like things have gone the way that we had anticipated or worked out the way that we had wanted, but strength really allows us to understand what we have taken from the challenges and the difficulties that come in our life and what it is that we need to do with this energy. So when I think of strength, I think it's very much this invitation to reflect on what have you learned, what have you been doing, what have you been focusing on, and what does that mean for you overall as far as like what you really desire moving forward. Now, with this being what we need to release, is maybe this is not about taking that time out to say, I've been through this and I've been through that. I think a lot of us have been internalizing a lot of the things that have been going on, and it's not very easy to talk about. It's not, we may feel like it's uncomfortable to take that time out to kind of, reach out to people and just be like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with, what's going on, or I'm very frustrated with the things that are going on. And a lot of us, we have kind of like built our own little silos of, I'm just going to keep all of my stuff to myself, and I'm not really going to get out there and share like what I have going on and why I feel a certain way. So I think right now is not really the time for us to focus on having to be strong and having to hold it together. I think if more of us really, I don't want to say admitted, but maybe we're more forthcoming about our feelings and what we have going on, we may be able to meet other people where they're at, right? We may be able to kind of recognize a little bit of this and that within each other. And I think that's kind of the energy for this week, is that, especially given that we have this Four of Pentacles reversed, where it's almost like saying like our foundation is is not going to feel as firm as it once was. We're not going to feel quite as stable. We're not going to feel like things have really been coming together the way that we had anticipated. And I think what we need to release is this sense of, oh, we have always known life to be this way. And no matter what, like we are enduring, and we're going to always come out on top. And I'm not saying this as like individuals. I think I'm saying this as a collective, and especially for those of us in the United States, where for so long we've had this like ease about us in our lives, because we've always felt like, well, we're so, in control. We're so powerful. We're so this. Other people kind of see us as someone to kind of like strive to be, and, things of this nature. But anything that has kind of happened in the last 10 years or so, a lot of us are kind of recognizing like, oh, this is all very fragile. It's not the strength and the firm foundation that we thought we had. These things are crumbling. These things are no longer as stabilizing as we once thought. And so I think a lot of us are kind of questioning and looking at like, what does that mean if where we're at and what we've worked so hard towards is not really making sense for what we want moving forward. So I think that this week it's really about just kind of releasing this expectation that things will be as they once were, or that we will be able to come back to that right now. So I think a lot of us are kind of in this like weird headspace with, all of that and what that means for us as individuals, and what it will mean to have to kind of move out of the energy that we've been in for so long. So we talk about what we need to contemplate. We have the Queen of Wands reverse. Now, when I think of the Queen of Wands, I think of her as like, she is out there. She is like a mover and a shaker. She's ready to kind of like explore the world and do this. And she's powerful and nurturing and vibrant. And she's like the witch, basically the witchy kind of energy of the tarot card, where she's just kind of showing up and she's just doing her own thing. But when I think of her reverse, I think that there is this like disconnect between the feminine and the fire kind of element of the energy of the Wands suit. So I feel like with hers, like maybe we need to contemplate like where maybe we've been disconnected from our own personal power. Maybe we've been disconnected from how we can kind of show up and be nurturing and, move and shake in our own ways. Like, what is it that we can kind of do for ourselves? And we've kind of not been doing, and I think that's the thing with a lot of us, is that because life has become so challenging and isolating in so many different ways, that we have forgotten what it's like to have community, to have connection, to work on, pushing past our own personal fears and kind of doing something that is maybe a little bit scary, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. With the Queen of Wands reverse, I feel like what we need to contemplate is, have we taken care of ourselves enough? And what is it that like we need to kind of share in the world as well? Now, I'm not telling you to pour out of a cup that's already empty. So if you're already like, girl, I am exhausted, I am tired, I'm just like literally trying to survive, that's not what I'm saying. And I don't think that the Queen of Wands is saying that either for yourself. I think it's maybe saying, how can you take care of yourself? How can you ask for the help that you need, instead of trying to feel like you're the one that has to come in with your little magical wand like she has and try to fix it. That's not what's going to be the best use of your energy this week. I think it's more of, how can you take care of you first, and then see how you can show up in the world. This is not a time to feel like I have to keep going, I have to keep pushing, I have to blah, 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 blah. So I think the biggest thing with this week is we are still in the throes of really contemplating what we want, what we need, and what that means for us overall. So here we have our moon message. So here we have, slow it down. I think this is something we're all kind of feeling. We've been, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of feel like this year I've been like just going. And I've had a lot of things happen that have required me to not just slow it down, but to completely stop. And it's been, and then I try to hit the ground running again. And I know like that's not good, but also I don't know how to fix it. So I think it's interesting to get this slow it down message for this week, because I think it's reminding so many of us that like, hey, you're going at a pace that is not sustainable. You know, Pisces season to me can be very much about this like healing, spiritual, boundless kind of energy where we can really tune in to this higher intuitive energy if we take the time out to do so. With everything that's been going on, and for so many of us, like we're like, oh, I feel like I need to be informed and I need to do this and I need to do that. And then we have our day-to-day stuff going on, and we have all of our personal responsibilities, and just, you know, trying to keep up with everything all of the time can be extremely draining and just mentally taxing. So I think that with this moon phase and having the Virgo full moon and it being a lunar eclipse, it's kind of saying like, hey, eclipses bring this like unexpected energy that allows for changes to really take root. And as with anything in life, when things are changing, when things are shifting, if we slow it down, we can adjust the change a little bit better. And I think that's kind of the message with this week, is that some things are shifting, some things are changing. This is not a time to just kind of rush into the next thing. This is about kind of metabolizing the shifts and the changes that are happening and giving yourself an opportunity to look at what does that mean for you in the long term. Now, finally, we have Find Your Haven. There's a place of wonder waiting just for you. I think that this is really just kind of saying, how can you take some time out to go back into what it is that you need, like the Queen of Wands reverse, and take care of your most immediate needs. It is so easy for us to overconsume everything that's being thrown at us, because at no other time during history have we had the opportunity to know in any instant everything and anything that is going on. And I've often wondered what that does to our minds, to our mental health. To be able to have access to people in such a very open and unfettered way, if that makes sense. Before, we would only have connection and communication, for the most part, with just our closest relatives or the people that lived near where we were. We were not, going from one place to the other within a day. Like when I think of this ability to travel was something that was very challenging. It was very long. It was very inconvenient. And I think with the accessibility of not just information, but location and travel, and being able to just at any time, if I'm like, I want to know what's going on in such and such place, I can just look it up and I can tune right into that energy at any point in time, versus previous time periods where we would have to wait until we were all kind of told what was going on, and it would be a very long time after things happened. I think it's kind of done something to how we process information, what we're doing, and a lot of our emotional kind of energy in some ways, because it almost feels like a lot of us are like going at like a breakneck speed through life in so many ways. And we're like, well, now I got to pay attention to this, and now I got to pay attention to that. And so I think with Finding Your Haven this week, it is a reminder that you need to take some time out to get back to you, to take some opportunity, if you can, to just sit with yourself. I always tell myself, like, it's okay to be bored. I don't have to be constantly stimulated and constantly, tuned in and doing this and doing that. And it's so easy to get distracted by our devices. And I don't think that's good for our brains. And I love that I now have a very physical job to where I'm not on my phone all of the time. I'm usually listening to like an audiobook or, you know, I'm listening to music or whatever, which I guess in a way that's still being on my phone, but not in the sense of like I'm just endlessly, mindlessly scrolling, and allowing all of this other energy to permeate my peace and my mind. So I think with finding your haven, you know, I think that this is kind of saying like, hey, we kind of need to take some time out to kind of go back within. We've forgotten what it's like to be able to metabolize everything that we've gone through, and to kind of take time out for like, what do we really think? What do we really feel? What do we really have? And I think with all of these reverse cards is that there is this need to kind of internalize and kind of check back in with ourselves first before we see the external lessons this week. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here and watching my videos. I really hope that you guys enjoy the things that I'm sharing. I want to say thank you for just, you know, allowing me to do something that I really love. So please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.